Hello everyone, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 2.0. Welcome back to the channel. Enjoy the fanfic. And let's begin. Part 4. The morning soon came as the sunlight shined through the beautiful crafted windows of the upper level of the Senju mansion. Its rays shined bright upon the sleeping boy who was snuggling close to his lovely companion Kaguya. Mito and Hashirama couldn't understand why their son loved sleeping with Kaguya. But according to their son, he says he feels safe. Naruto fluttered his eyes open as he heard the sounds of birds chirping. With a groan he sat up and let out a yawn. I hate waking up early in the morning, he groaned, rubbing his eyes. He soon turned to see Kaguya still asleep. She looked so beautiful when she slept. Not wanting to disturb her, he started to get dressed. He put on a bright orange shirt with the Uzumaki symbol on it along with black hakama shorts. Once fully dressed, he walked over and kissed Kaguya's cheek before heading downstairs. He was suddenly greeted by a sweet smell of delicious eggs and bacon as he saw his mother cooking and his dad reading the morning paper. "Morning, Ka-san. Morning, Tu-chan," Naruto greeted them happily. Mito turned her head to see her son up and at so early. Normally he would sleep in like his father. Still, she placed the food on the table and took a seat next to her husband. "Well, good morning, Sochi. It's very rare to see you up so early in the morning. I can only guess since today is your first day of the academy." Mito chuckled. "Of course, Ka-san," Naruto said, taking a seat at the table. "I'm finally going to become a shinobi, and one day I'll take that hat from Tu-san." Hashirama chuckled at his son's motivation and his ambition to become the next Hokage. He knew that his son had the dream for it. But it took more than just ambition to be Hokage. The weight of the hat and the job it comes with is something that you must prepare yourself for. "Ha ha ha ha, you're many years too early to take the Hokage's hat, Sochi. But if you train hard and never give up, then I have no doubt that I'll one day pay the mantle of Hokage to you." The family soon began eating, and boy oh boy did Mito know how to cook. Her recipes were one of the best. Heck, she even published them and they sold off the shelves like crazy. Naruto was stuffing his face, which showed how much he loved his mother's cooking. "Naruto-chan, no stuffing your face, you'll choke," Mito scolded. Naruto let out a goofy laugh before swallowing. "Sorry, Ka-chan, I just love your cooking." "Well, that's very sweet, but you can still show proper table manners." "Ooh, come on, Mito-sama, let the boy have a little fun. I mean, you're only young once." Hashirama chuckled. This resulted in him receiving a bonk on the head by her ladle. Hashirama grunted, rubbing his head. Mito looked at him with her hair flowing in 9 strands resembling Kurama's tails. "Are you questioning my parenting skills, Hashirama?" Mito shouted. "And did you just hint at me that I'm old?" Sinking down in his chair, Hashirama held up his kitchen plate to shield himself from his wife's anger. Sure, he may be the god of all shinobi, but he wouldn't risk arguing with his hot-blooded wife. Begging for mercy and apologizing quickly for his mistake, he was saved by a loud laugh. They noticed Kurama on the couch waking from his nap. "What an alarm clock. I wake up to the whining of the so-called god of shinobi, scared out of his wits by his own wife," Kurama said teasingly, making Hashirama steam with anger. Kurama stretched his limbs as he jumped off the couch and turned into his favorite form, a beautiful red-haired woman with long red hair, red eyes with black slits, a goddess-like body with a double E-size cup. The kitsune woman also wore a tight kimono that showed off her body shape. Kurama chose this form a lot to keep fangirls away from Naruto. The fox also loved this form despite him being male. But to him, he believes tailed beasts are not defined by gender and switch between the two anytime they want. She took her seat next to Naruto as she was served with some eggs and bacon along with some rolls. Unlike Naruto, Kurama ate in a more sophisticated way. Similar to how royalty eats. "Kurama, I'm going to be busy at the Hokage's office with so many applicants for the academy, alliance contracts, and other papers that I wish I didn't have to sign. God, I hate paperwork." The more I finish, the more they multiply. Hashirama sighed in his hands. If you want to save yourself from doing so much paperwork, why not just use multi-shadow clones jutsu and have them help you? That way you'll get it done twice as fast, Naruto suggested. Hashirama immediately slammed his head down on the table, rattling the silverware. Everyone could hear him muffins the word stupid over and over. How could he, the most powerful shinobi of his era, forget about the many uses of shadow clones? It would seem all those years in the afterlife affected his brain cells. Stupid. Stupid. Stupid, Hashirama shouted over and over. How could I have forgotten that? Because you're a century-old fossil with fewer brain cells and your son is a natural-born genius with a good head on his shoulders. Kurama smirked. Not helping, the Hokage groaned. Come on Kurama, leave dad alone. Naruto scolded the fox. He's not an idiot. You can't expect him to remember something 90 years ago. Thank you Naruto, Hashirama sighed, leaning back in his chair. That's what mom's for. Hashirama soon sulked in his chair, sobbing that his son was agreeing with the fox about him being an idiot. Naruto and the others' sweat dropped at his reaction to what he said. Mito sighed in irritation. Her husband always takes insults too seriously. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Who could be at their house this early in the morning? Minato and his family arrived the Senju compound, hoping to end this farce and retrieve Naruto. They were thankful that the gods had pity on Naruto and gave him a temporary family to raise him. But now that they were back, the family's services would no longer be required. Plus they were hoping that by doing this then their relations with the village will be restored. Since their return, over 92% greeted them with glares and harsh whispers of insults. At first they didn't mind it, but soon they were overcharged for food and other merchandise. Along with the fact that many other food joints didn't allow them entrance. Of course Menma was treated differently, as they didn't know if he was the same as his parents. After all, don't punish the child for the sins of their parents. So the villagers have Menma a fair chance to prove to them he wasn't arrogant. However, 2% of the village praised the return of the Namikaze family with open arms. Soon they all gathered at the front door as Minato knocked on the door. Minato had been planning on teaching his son his uncle's elemental jutsus and the side branch taijutsu styles. Since Naruto was going to lead the side branch, he wanted to ensure his son would be powerful enough to aid Menma. Kushina was planning on teaching him Fuinjutsu and Kenjutsu, which would allow them to be closer and form a mother and son relations. Tsunade, however, was planning on teaching Naruto medical jutsu, since Menma didn't have the proper chakra control to use it. Although she was still peeved at the brat for mocking her and making fun of her age, she decided for the good of her family she would put aside her pride. Jiraiya was going to train him to summon toads, despite the fact that unknown to him Mito was going to have Naruto sign the White Tiger contract and that Kurama would let him sign the Fox contract. We have to get my son back, Minato-kun. Kushina cried. We will, Kushina-chan, don't worry. It will be tough, but I'm sure Naruto will get used to it. Minato smiled. Suddenly the door opened and they saw Naruto standing before them. Naruto just looked at them with no smile on his face. They assumed that their son was still angry with them and decided to show it. Can I help you, Namikaze-sama? Naruto asked. The Namikaze family was shocked. They thought that he was going to explode with anger or sick the Kyuubi on them. But he just greeted them with a respectful gesture. Hello Naruto, we hope we aren't intruding. But we need to talk to you, Minato smiled. Mother, the Namikaze family is here, Naruto called out to Mito. Mito, who was clearing some of the dishes, heard what Naruto said. She growled in irritation, wondering what could they possibly want now. Send them in, Naruto, let's see what they want. Mito called back. Naruto allowed them inside as the group entered the dining hall. Tsunade was shocked to see the old compound in such good shape after being deserted for so many years. Kushina was trying her best not to get into a confrontation with Mito, her old mentor. Jiraiya on the hand noticed next to Hashirama and noticed the goddess-like beauty next to him. The Toad Sanin's eyes popped out as he immediately got out his notebook and began taking notes. The said woman glared at the Sanin as she noticed that Jiraiya was staring at her and writing notes in his notebook. Jiraiya-san, I hope you're not writing notes about me to put in your filthy smutty books, are you? She growled. Wait, what? Naruto said, grabbing the notebook from his hands. Hey, give that back, Gaki, that's personal, Jiraiya shouted. Naruto read through the notebook and turned to glare at Jiraiya. The Sanin, however, was unfazed with the kid's glare and demanded his notebook back. Ooh, I'll give it back. Naruto growled as he walked over to the dining hall fireplace and threw it into the fire. Jiraiya screamed as his new novel work of Ica Ica Paradise went up in flames. He cried anime tears as he sobbed about his hard work and research were now gone forever. Kushina and the other women didn't really care since they despised that novel. Now that the entertainment is over, what do you all want? We told you that Naruto is ours now and you have no legal bindings to him. Mito said harshly. We told you that Lady Shinogami replaced your DNA with ours, therefore making Naruto our son. That's a load of bull crap, Tsunade shouted. And you know it. Now we understand that you were brought back to raise him and you did a fine job. But now it's time for Naruto to return to his real family. My real family is right here, Lady Tsunade. Lord Minato and Lady Kushina had their chance and they blew it. I'm also protected by the laws of Konoha. So if Minato and Kushina really want me back, then they shouldn't have left me in the first place. Naruto replied coldly. Naruto, we already told you the reason why we had to leave, Kushina sighed, getting a headache. It was for the betterment for the world. Yeah, I heard. But you could have done it another way, actually a lot of ways. Kurama spoke up in his female voice. You could have left Naruto with Makoto since you were friends since you were kids. You could have had Tsunade stay back to raise him since she was his grandmother. You could have left him with any of the clans and you could have come to visit him once in a while. Or you could have taken him with you. Minato and Kushina understood they had many options, and while many of them were good, they thought that if none of their enemies knew Naruto existed, then he would be safe from all attempts of I Nation. Yet they failed to understand that many of the clans were powerful in their own right and would have done anything to protect Naruto. Yet they failed to see that if our enemies didn't know Naruto existed, then he would be safe. Minato defended himself. But now that we're back, we can finally be a family again. Hashirama stood up, showing off his dominance for the first time in years. You seem to lack brain cells for someone who was a natural-born genius. Naruto is my son now. He's happy here and has been for the first 8 years of his life. So why, pray tell, should he leave parents that loved him, fed him, heard his first words, saw his first steps, and comforted him when he was scared or sad, to someone who saw him more of a tool than a child? We never saw Naruto as such a thing. Kushina retorted. Really, then what would you call it? Mito asked, crossing her arms. Kushina opened her mouth to speak, but no words seemed to escape her lips. Mito only nodded her head as she proved her point. Minato cleared his throat and stepped forward towards Naruto. Naruto, we understand that you've grown attached, Lady Mito and Lord Hashirama. We are thankful that they raised you while we were gone, but now it's time to come home. You can still come and visit them, but your duty is to your family. Jiraiya said firmly. Naruto stared up at him with cold eyes. How dare this man come into his house and tell him to leave his family for people who threw him away like some useless toy? I'm sorry, Jiraiya-sama, but I'm happy here. My duty is to my father, Hashirama. I'm needed here. Naruto shook his head at them, showing his refusal to leave. Naruto, this rebellious attitude is unbecoming of a Namikaze. Minato scolded him like a little kid. You're destined to perform a great service to the world of shinobi with your brother. Now please pack your things, we can start your training when we get home. Plus my cousin is there so you can get to know your future wife. It would appear you're hard of hearing, Minato. My son is not going anywhere. Now I've tolerated your presence here long enough. Leave my home or I shall call the Anbu and have you executed for not only trying to kidnap a Hokage's heir but also trespassing on my property. Hashirama released so much ki. Say I do come with you. What could your clan possibly offer me other than enslavement and forced marriages? Naruto asked, not buying into their we miss you and want you back crap. Minato smiled at this opportunity. Simple, my son, I can teach you the lightning elemental jutsus of my uncle that made him famous in the Second Great War. As well the Namikaze taijutsu style. I already have Kakashi ni-san to teach me Raiden jutsus. Naruto scoffed. Plus my mom and dad can teach me Senju and Uzumaki taijutsu style to its full potential than you. Minato stuttered as he tried to think of something else. Kushina, seeing her husband was trying to control the situation, spoke her piece. I can teach you Fuinjutsu and the Uzumaki Kenjutsu style Raging Tide. Kushina smiled. We can bond over that and learn so much about each other. To get together as mother and son again. Naruto found it tempting as Raging Tide was once of the powerful Kenjutsu styles of the Uzumaki clan. But it was the most toughest styles to learn. Naruto wasn't really interested in Kenjutsu as he preferred a staff like Hiruzen Jiji. Plus he already had a Fuinjutsu teacher, his mother, since she was one of the greatest sealing mistresses in all the nations. Sorry, but I don't have the patience or the love of swordplay. And as for sealing, I've got Mito Ka-chan, who is the greatest sealing mistress in existence. So sorry Kushina-sama, but I'll have to page. I can teach you summoning, kiddo, Jiraiya boasted. After all, the toads and slugs are two of the most powerful summonings in the world. Naruto and his parents' sweat dropped at that. Apparently no one ever told the pervert that the toads and slugs were one of the top 15 most powerful summonings. Even Hashirama knew that the top 5 most powerful summons were the lions at number 5, the tigers are number 4, foxes are number 3, phoenixes at number 2 and dragons at number 1. Surely every summoner and their summoning clans know that. Forgive me Jiraiya-sama, but Mito Ka-chan is letting me sign the Uzumaki White Tiger contract and Kyuubi-sama is letting me sign the Fox contract. Naruto grinned. So forgive me, old hermit, but I must refuse the toads and slugs. I don't mean to insult, they are powerful, I admit, no doubt about it. But the foxes and tigers are one of the top 5 most powerful for a reason. Geez Gaki, since when did you become so smart? Jiraiya asked. From studying and reading, you should try it sometime. Naruto answered. Well, I can teach you medical jutsu and my super strength. Surely you can't pee that up. I'm the world's best medic. Suan smirked with a boastful look on her face. Your skills are impressive, Lady Tsunade, Naruto nodded. But I'm afraid that Kurama has you beat there. Yes, Kurama may be made of chakra, but his knowledge of healing and medicines outdo yours. You're giving me too much credit, Gaki, Kurama thought watching it all play out. You're comparing the Kyuubi's skill to mine. I've developed poisons that can kill a Jinchuriki. My skills are not to be criticized. Tsunade fumed. Jinchuriki maybe, Hashirama butted in. But tailed beasts are a whole different thing. See, there is nothing you can offer me. If that's all you're willing to offer, then I suggest you leave now. I have to get ready for the academy and I don't want to be late because my so-called birth family can't take a simple no for an answer. Silence filled the room. The Namikaze family was outwitted by a mere 8-year-old child. Their plan was simple: to convince Naruto to come back, regain control of the village, train the boys, and save the ninja world. Why couldn't fate just let the prophecy come to fruition and let their sons do their duty? Seeing there was no way out, they decided to try something else. Minato took from his back pocket a scroll and tossed it to Naruto. Naruto, seeing Minto toss him a scroll, caught it in his hands. He unraveled it and noticed that was a strange seal. There was a long list of what was inside it. It was also a letter from the first Namikaze side branch leader Kadajin Namikaze. Dear future Namikaze side branch leader. However finds this letter proves that you are the future Namikaze side branch leader. I am Kadajin Namikaze and my duty was to protect the future of the Namikaze clan. In my time as leader I've created many deadly jutsus and seals that protected the clan for almost a century. I was known during the clan war era as the lightning flash not just for my speed but for my mastery in Raiden jutsus. In this scroll are all my works and research notes, along with all my jutsus and my lightning blade that earned me my nickname. Hopefully you can use and perhaps experiment with them to make them stronger or make your own creations. I have no doubt that already there will be many to continue my legacy. Glory be to the Namikaze clan. Kadajin Namikaze, leader of the Namikaze clan side branch. Naruto looked at the scroll as the contents also had a list of all Kadajin's jutsus. From the sound of it Naruto could see this man was truly a devoted clan member that went to great lengths to protect his family. However on the other hand this also showed him that this scroll was his obligation to follow in the man's footsteps. Naruto was about to lose his temper but decided against it and rolled up the scroll. The boy was silent as everyone waited to see what his reaction would be. Naruto turned towards the fireplace and in a flash threw the scroll into the fire. Minato gasped as he saw his ancestor's scroll thrown into the fire. Like a flash Minato pushed Naruto aside and reached into the fireplace ignoring the burns and blisters from the flames. Minato used the bottom off his robe-like jacket to put the flames out. Once the fire was extinguished the scroll was severely damaged. Minato unrolled the scroll to find the letter part was okay but the seals on the scroll were destroyed beyond repair. Kadajin's research, his Raiden jutsus, and legendary lightning katana that made him the lightning flash was now lost forever. Minato's eyes filled with tears before turning to Naruto with a glare. You little turd, do you realize what you done? Kadajin was a hero that many Namikazes after him respected and admired. His legacy that was passed down to future generations now gone because of you. You could have been the next lightning flash. Minato shouted enraged. I did it because of broken the final chains that chained me to you. I'm not a Namikaze nor do I want to be one. I'm a Senju and an Uzumaki. Naruto declared proudly. I Naruto Senju hereby wash my hands of Minato and Kushina Namikaze. I here renounce their status as my parents. From now on they are strangers to me. Naruto, you can't mean that. Kushina covered her mouth trying to control her tears. I do, Kushina-san. I've detached myself from you. You gave me life and for that I thank you. But now this is where we part ways for good. I want to hate you, I really do. But what would be the point? The world is full of it already. Therefore I will be apathic towards you and your family except for Menma. He may be arrogant but that's thanks to you morons. So I'm willing to give him a chance. Well, this had been a fine morning now, do kindly leave before I call Anbu to arrest you, Hashirama seethed. Minato stood up and faced Hashirama. This isn't over. Naruto will be ours. Hashirama's only response was a kick to Minato's jewels as the Yondaime squealed, clutching his precious balls. The Shadaime then picked him up by the neck and smirked. Try all you want, I love a good challenge. Hashirama chuckled darkly. See you again, and have a nice flight home. Minato wondered what he meant before he was raised into the air by Kurama via telekinesis as he was sent flying through the air and into the women's bathhouse. The women screamed pervert as Minato was beaten by many angry women. Minato's screams and their girls' angry shouts told Kushina and company where he landed. Deciding to try again another time, they decided to back off for the time being. Jiraiya and the others bid the Senju family farewell as they went to rescue a beaten-down Minato. A few weeks had passed as we find Hashirama was in his office going through the applicants of the academy students. Madara was next to him helping him sort them out. Looks like they had a great amount of new students that would bring Konoha to a new height. However, one such application caught his eye. It was the new transfer student from Kumo. She was young with long pale blonde hair and black eyes. Not to mention she was the Jinchuriki of Matabi. Yugito Ni came to the village as a transfer student and a peace offering ever since word spread that Hashirama was restored. The Raikage believed this would strengthen the ties between the village, but Hashirama didn't fully trust the man. Kumo had a history of seeking out new bloodlines, especially the Byakugan. So there was no doubt that Kumo would seek to obtain the Mokudan. According to the girl's sheet, she was a gifted prodigy. She mastered all academy jutsus when she was 5 and mastered many E and D rank jutsus along with a few C ranks. She had a powerful regenerative ability like all Jinchuriki. She also gained the enhanced senses of a cat. Her taijutsu was C rank, her genjutsu was D rank, and her ninjutsu was low B rank at best. She reminded him of his wife, who was also a prodigy at a young age. She was also currently living with Danzo as her temporary guardian. Looks like we will be having a lot of good applicants. The heirs of our fellow clans and our new transfer student. Hashirama smiled, going through the other papers. You know as well as I do that Kumo is at a thin line with Konoha since the Second Ninja War. I don't trust that bastard as far as I can throw him. You know they've sought out many bloodlines from this village. Madara said coldly. I have a feeling that when they come here to sign the peace treaty they will try it again. Hashirama sighed as he couldn't argue with Madara's statement. But if peace was to restore, they had to take a chance. However, he would make to strengthen security during the treaty signing. He thought having Tobirama and Madara would be enough security, but it wouldn't hurt to post a few more men. The door opened as Minato and Kushina walked in. They were dressed in shinobi attire that showed their status as Junin. Minato's attire consisted of a standard Konoha uniform with 2 bands on both of his sleeves, a green flak jacket, blue forehead protector, and blue sandals. His wife Kushina's attire consisted of a standard Konoha flak jacket over a black short-sleeved shirt and black form-fitting pants that reached her calves. She wore a blue forehead protector with her hair tied up in a high ponytail and strands at the sides of her face. They reported for their first mission since they've been back. Ever since their last failed attempt to convince Naruto to come home. They've become more focused on Menma to train him for his role as Child of Prophecy. Menma was strong for his age. They knew that and truly believed once both boys graduate they could have them both on the same team. At least that's what they were hoping. Mostly Kushina, as she was a feared kunoichi throughout the nations. Plus she had the ability to contain Menma if he ever went berserk. Minato and Kushina reporting for our first mission. Lord first, Minato said respectfully. I have a special mission for both of you. The ambassador from Kumo is coming here tomorrow to sign the peace treaty between our village. Now I understand that things have been very shady with Kumo. Of course they have. Kushina shouted. Those bastard tried to kidnap me when I was a little girl. Kushina. Hashirama yelled. I understand your anger, but I will not have you lose your cool, understand? Hi. Kushina seethed. Good, now as extra security I want you to secretly watch the ambassador. I don't fully trust them to not try to kidnap someone from any of the clans, especially the Hyuga clan. Therefore I'm placing you, Kushina, to be stationed at the Hyuga compound. As for Minato, since you're known as the Yellow Flash, you'll be the ambassador's escort. Therefore you will tag him with your special seal so you'll be able to catch him if he does in fact kidnap someone. They nodded as they took the scroll from Hashirama. However, Hashirama glared at them and told them that if they fail in their mission they will be stuck doing D-rank missions for the next year with no pay at all. Seeing as they were getting the message, they promised they would not fail. Before they left, Minato asked Hashirama about Naruto. Hokage-sama, how is Naruto? I heard he's quite the powerhouse at his age. Minato asked. He's fine, Minato. Hashirama groaned. And yes, he's quite strong for his age. Far greater than many others in his age group. Why do you ask? We were hoping when Naruto graduates he could be placed on a team with Menma with me as their sensei, Kushina asked with a hope in her tone. You know I can't promise that. As Hokage I must abide by the rules I set when I first became Hokage. I can't show favoritism even to my own son. Naruto and Menma will be placed on teams that fit their strengths, weaknesses, and abilities. But it's a perfect way to rekindle with Naruto. Kushina begged. Naruto will decide if he wants to rekindle with you. But if you keep trying to force your way into his life, it will only make him push you back more. Be lucky Naruto didn't disown you. What did you say? Kushina covered her mouth, tears flowing. Naruto believes in the code of the Uzumaki. He will never forgive you for what you done. But he refuses to abandon you as you are still his blood kin. But he carved blood kin deserter into my arm and renounced me as his mother and family member. Kushina argued. Yes, family member, but he never said clan member. Madara spoke up. Naruto has shown true Uzumaki devotion. He still called you a clan member regardless of your crime. So be thankful for that. Minato and Kushina were silent for a minute as they felt hope again. Naruto hadn't fully disowned them as he still considered them clan members. Maybe there was a chance to rekindle their relations. They vowed to make things right with Naruto even if it killed them. Bowing their heads they left the office. Madara knew that their desperation for redemption from their former son would lead to an even greater disaster. Sensing his distress, Hashirama placed a hand on his shoulder. I know you're overprotective of my son, but like I said before, Naruto can handle himself. Madara could only smile at that. Of course the little fuzz ball would be okay. The boy had proven he can take care of himself, but that still didn't turn off his feeling of protecting his godson. Madara was like a mother wolf that protects her cub. Konoha Academy. Naruto was walking to the academy with his mother and uncle Tobirama. Tobirama's return also spread like wildfire throughout the village. The village never felt more safe than ever now with both Senju brothers to protect them. Naruto was super excited to start the academy and to become a ninja and one day take the Hokage hat from his dad. He was dressed in a white battle kimono which was based off and modified from Kaguya's sage robe design, which would help him improve his speed and movement in battle. His red hair had gotten a bit longer as it reached to his waist but was tied in a ponytail. The villagers bowed their heads and waved to the family, paying their respect, which they kindly returned. On their way to the academy, Naruto stopped when he heard a loud crash and noticed Mebuki Haruno tripped and hit the ground, spilling her groceries. She groaned in pain as she sat up and tried to pick up the spilled food. Immediately he rushed over to her to see if she was okay. Madam Haruno, are you alright? He asked. Naruto-sama, I'm fine, I just tripped, that's all, she groaned. Naruto reached down trying to help her up as best he could. Mebuki was grateful the boy was trying to help her, but she was a bit too heavy for him to lift up. However, as luck would badly have it, a certain pink-haired banshee came running towards them. Hey, how dare you hurt my mother? You tripped her. Sakura screeched loudly, making Naruto cover his ears. Naruto, shocked at the accusation, spoke up in his defense. What? No, I didn't trip her. I saw her fall and was trying to help her back to her feet. That answer resulted with a slap across the face. Naruto held his cheek as everyone around them gasped. Sakura glared down at Naruto with hateful, cold eyes. Yeah, right. You made her fall. You're just like what other people say you are. You're nothing more than a demon. You're no better than that fox demon you carry inside of you. Nobody wants you here. Do us a favor and go die in ditch. Naruto felt those words pierce his heart. He's heard many insults from the villagers that hate him and he was used to it. However, hearing from a girl he secretly had a crush on hurt him badly. Mebuki, hearing what her daughter said, became infuriated as she screamed at her daughter. Sakura Haruno, apologize this instant. Mebuki shouted, shocking Sakura. Apologize. But mom, he's a demon. He's the reason dad is dead. Sakura shouted back. He's a Jinchuriki, there's a difference. Mebuki argued back. The Kyuubi and Naruto are two separate beings. Now you will apologize this instant, young lady. Also, when you get back from the academy today, I am going to teach you some respect, young lady. I say she needs a lot of it, Tobirama growled as Naruto turned around. Uncle Tori, Naruto smiled. You alright? Yes, uncle, I'm fine. Tobirama walked over to Mebuki and held out his hand, helping her to her feet. Ooh, thank you, Lord Tobirama, Lord Naruto. She thanked them. Please call me Naruto. I don't like having my lord title being used as it makes me feel like I'm above everyone else. Naruto blushed a bit. Such a kind boy with a good heart. I see your parents have raised you well. She chuckled, stumbled to her feet. Please take this. She offered Naruto an apple from her bag. Ooh, thank you, but I can't accept it. Naruto replied shyly. Oh please, I insist, it's the least I can do to thank you. She begged. Well, alright. Naruto smiled, taking the apple. Thank you. No, my boy, thank you for taking time to help a lady. She smiled before dragging her daughter to the academy. You did a good thing, Naruto. Tobirama smiled. I couldn't just leave her like that, Naruto sighed. That wouldn't be right to let a sweet lady just lay there. Spoken like a true hero, Tobirama ruffled his hair. Come on, your mother is waiting for us. Naruto nodded as they headed back down the road to meet up with Mito, who was at the front of the academy. Mito noticed them and asked them what took them so long. Tobirama told her about how Naruto helped an old lady who fell and hurt herself. Mito turned to her son, who nodded, which had confirmed his story. That was a nice thing you did, Sochi. Mito praised him. Thank you, Ka-chan. Naruto smiled. Well then, come on, I don't want my son to be late on his first day. Naruto nodded as he hugged and kissed mother goodbye and high-fived Tobirama. He followed the batch of students to the CL room where their sensei Iruka Yumino greeted them. Naruto also noticed many of his friends were there. Kiba, heir to the Inuzuka clan and a brash kid with the Alpha Mall's complex. But on the inside he was as soft as newborn puppy, all bark and no bite most of the time. Sasuke Uchiha, his brother in arms and closest friend since childhood. Satsuki Uchiha, his #1 fan girl that dreams of marrying him. He swears that she is worse than Sakura Haruno, Sasuke's #1 fangirl. Speaking of the Banshee, she was sitting next to Satsuki. She was one of the students that hated Naruto and blamed him and the Ninetales for her father's death. She also hated him for corrupting her mother. In back of Sakura was Ino Yamanaka, heiress of the Yamanaka clan, Shikamaru Nara, heir to the Nara clan, and Choji Akamichi, heir to the Akamichi clan. On the left side say Shino Aburame of the Aburame clan, Hinata Hyuga of the Hyuga clan, Neji Utsutsuki, second heir to the Utsutsuki clan, Rock Lee, and Tenten in their final year at the academy. Sitting in back of them was Menma Namikaze. He looked exactly like Minato, from the gold spiky hair to the heart-shaped face of his mother. All the clan heirs and many civilian students were there. His eyes soon rested on Yugito Ni, the transfer student that was sent by Kumo as a peace offering. He remembered meeting her and he liked her not for her beauty or her power. No, he liked her for her personality and sense of humor. He waved to her, which she noticed. She blushed while waving back. They had grown very close ever since her arrival to the village and became very good friends. Even though they were arranged to be wed, Naruto had treated her like a human being instead of an arranged wife. Naruto immediately took his seat next to her. Iruka as looked over his new CL, students from many of the shinobi clans and many civilian students. However, he also heard the Senju and Namikaze heir was going to be in his CL. He heard about both families' reputation and their training they received from her parents. He noticed Naruto, who looked a lot like Lady Mito but with some traits of Lord First. He heard the Senju heir was powerful more than his age group. But he also heard the boy was modest and loved to work hard. He also noticed that he was close to Yugito ni the transfer Jinchuriki. He noticed Menma, son of Lord Fourth and Lady Kushina. Though he hated the Namikaze for what they did, he couldn't hate Menma as he had nothing to be blamed for. One thing for sure, he had his work cut out for him. Welcome to the academy. My name is Iruka Yumino and I will be your sensei for the duration of your time here. Iruka smiled. Why don't you introduce yourself to the CL so we can get to know you better? Also, I have Lady Kaguya with me as she will take over as head of the academy to ensure we produce actual shinobi and kunoichi. He motioned to the woman who sat next to him. She was dressed in an elite Anbu uniform. She also had in her lap a wolf mask with black lines around the eyes. She was known as the Ukami Megami, aka Wolf Goddess. Her hair was in a long ponytail and was shiny as silver. She waved to everyone but blew a kiss at Naruto, who blushed, making Yugito quietly growl. Everyone began to greet the junior or senior students, telling them about their likes, dislikes, and their dreams. Some had dreams of being legendary shinobi while others dreamed of being Hokage. The next one to introduce themselves was Menma Namikaze. He stood at a height of 4 feet 5 inches tall and he wore black shorts and a white t-shirt with the Uzumaki spiral on the back of it. He greeted everyone and smiled. My name is Menma Namikaze, I'm 6 years old and I like my family, Konoha, and clan. I love learning new jutsus and ramen. My dislikes waiting for ramen to cook, emos, a certain red-haired woman. He looked at Naruto before turning back to Iruka. My dream is to become Hokage, but also my dream is restore my clan and to make a certain someone pay. Naruto knew that Menma was talking about his mother Mito. He heard that his mother was ordered to eliminate the Namikaze clan to prevent them from using him for breeding purposes. Naruto believed his mother's actions were justified. I mean, would you allow someone to use your baby as a bloodline breeding stallion? But he also understood his big brother's anger, but that didn't mean he would allow him to kill his mother. Okay then, Iruka sweated as he was one of the very few who heard about the Namikaze clan massacre. Looks like we got ourselves an Avenger here. I hope no, I pray to Kami Menma won't do anything stupid. Naruto cleared his throat as he decided to introduce himself next. I'm Naruto Senju. I am 6 years old. My likes are my family, Kurama, Kaguya-chan, Kitty-chan, Yugito, foxes, the moon, and ramen. My dislikes are Lord and Lady Kushina, Lady Tsunade, and Jiraiya for his filthy books that degrade women in such a way I find absolutely abominable. I hate rapists and predators who prey on innocents. My dream is to restore the world to a peaceful era and to be as strong as Daddy and Uncle Madara. Iruka nodded as he smiled. The kid truly had big ambitions, especially with wanting to be as strong as his parents and uncle. Alright, thank you Naruto, and Ms. Ni, how about you go first? Alright, my name is Yugito Ni, I'm 7 years old and I like my village, cats, Matabi, Foxy-kun, Naruto cooking, and castrating men who annoy me. My dislikes are rapists, a certain family, and secretly my rakeage for forcing me to become a Jinchuriki against my will. My dream, well, my dream is marry my Foxy-kun and be the dominate wife in his harem. Kaguya narrowed her eyes at the young girl. The little brat actually thought she was going to be Naruto's head wife. She was going to show her when she's old enough to have that no one is going to lead the harem but her. Kaguya always had a superiority complex when it came to, and she wanted to ensure only the worthiest of women would bed him. Yugito noticed Kaguya looked pissed off as she gave her the stink eye, making her silently fume. Naruto, noticing it, groaned as he face-palmed, shaking his head. Why was he cursed to be so desirable? After the rest of the introductions were finished, the CL was now in session. It started with the basic curriculum, much to the disgust of Naruto. His uncle Tobirama told him that the academy's academics the former civilian council had chosen were utter bullshit that wouldn't even help you on the battlefield. However, despite that, the best part was when it was time for the battle portion of the day. Taijutsu spars was the most fun for Naruto because she was facing against Menma. He wanted to see just how much Menma learned from his parents and the Sannin. 1, 2, 3. Hajime. Menma got into the hummingbird stance as he rushed at full speed. But Naruto expected this. He could clearly see Menma rushed in rashly and was acting upon only power and speed. He immediately sidestepped and tripped him. Menma caught himself as he delivered a punch aimed for his chest which Naruto blocked with his elbow. Naruto was soon swung off his balance by a low kick falling on his back as Menma swung a punch down only for Naruto to roll out of the way. Naruto smirked as he was impressed. Well, I must say Menma, your parents taught you well. Your speed is incredible and your use of the hummingbird style is truly impressive. Naruto praised him. But let's see how you handle this. Naruto dove in the whirlpool taijutsu style as he vanished from sight, making the crowd gasp as Naruto appeared behind Menma. Menma immediately countered the punch that was aimed for him but was kicked back a few feet. Menma grunted, feeling the power behind the kick. Naruto soon charged forward, not letting him recover, delivering kicks at his waist, chest, and his face, kicking him against the metal fence. Menma fell to one knee as he growled at Naruto. I won't lose, not this time. He started leaking red chakra, which everyone knew what that was. His eyes turned slits and his teeth sharpened. He let out a roar as he charged extremely fast. Naruto quickly dodged a swipe of his sharp finger-like claws. Damn, he succumbed to his anger that quickly. Naruto thought to himself. Looks like there is no choice. I got to find a way to calm him down. Naruto was pushed back against the fence pretty hard, grunting from the pain of the impact. Naruto stood up as he went through hand signs that his father taught him. Wood style. Cage restraint, he shouted. Soon wood sprouted around Menma like a cage, and the wooden bars sprouted more strands of wood that wrapped around him, contracting him. Menma struggled as the chakra began to be sucked into the wood, which allowed Naruto to absorb the chakra. If only I still had Kurama in me, it would be a big help, Naruto groaned softly. Naruto was only able to absorb 10% of the Kyuubi's chakra from Menma before the Namikaze air collapsed. Naruto panted as the jutsu was released. He soon collapsed a few minutes afterwards. Kaguya immediately rushed both boys to the hospital as the students were sent home early. Konoha Hospital. Room 204. Menma Pav. I yawned as I woke up and found myself in a comfy hospital bed. Looking out the window, I saw it was a bit cloudy. Upon realizing I was in a hospital, I began remember how I got there. Suddenly I remembered that I was sparring with my little brother, and then I remember losing my temper, and soon, ooh god, I lost control of the nine tails. Ooh my god, Naruto, I hope I didn't kill him. I'd never forgive myself. Quickly throwing off the covers, I ran out of room to the receptionist in the lobby, having been to the hospital many times before back home. Excuse me, I asked the receptionist. Which room is Naruto in? Naruto-sama is in room 504, Lord Menma, she told me. I thanked her as I rushed up to the 5th floor despite my small injuries. Upon reaching the room, I slowly opened the door to see Naruto resting in the bed with small parts of his body bandaged. He didn't look beaten up at all. I guess he had regenerative abilities like me. I gazed upon my brother's sleeping face as I felt a pang of guilt. I don't know if you can hear me, Naruto. But I know you can. I'm sorry I lost control of myself. I could have almost killed you. If that happened, I'd never forgive myself. I know you and my family don't see eye to eye, but I would like to at least be part of your life. I won't force you to leave the family you already have. I can see Lord and Lady Senju make you happy. I would be a bastard for taking that away from you. For what it's worth, little brother, I'm sorry. I hope you'll still consider me as your big brother. I leaned down and gave him a kiss on the forehead before leaving before my parents find out I went AWOL in the hospital. Normal Pav. Naruto opened his eyes slowly as soon as Menma left. He wasn't really out cold, he was just resting a bit, as an injury like this was nothing compared to the sparring matches with Madara or Kurama. However, a small tear ran down Naruto's cheek as he let out a small smile after hearing his brother's words. He found no deceit in this words and he felt pure remorse and love from it. I already have Menma. Menma headed towards the door and gripped the handle when he heard a voice telling him to stop. He slowly turned his head to see Naruto turning his head towards him. He could see a smile upon his fair, gentle face. His eyes were showing amounts of kindness with no amount of disdain and anger like he did the last time they met. Releasing the handle, Menma walked towards the bed. His brother slowly sat up, grunting a bit. I knew you could hear me, Menma chuckled. Like I said before, I'm sorry that I lost control of the Ninetales. I don't know what went wrong. Didn't your parents ever train you to control it? Naruto asked. Surely with Kushina being a former Jinchuriki, you would have been trained to control it. Menma felt a little embered, but he had to agree with Naruto. He wasn't trained in the basics of controlling a tailed beast's chakra yet. What's the point of having a Jinchuriki if they can't even control their power? No, I haven't reached that level of training yet. My parents taught me the basics first before moving on to ninjutsu and other stuff. I mastered low-ranked jutsus and I was good in taijutsu. My fuinjutsu skills suck balls, and I suck at genjutsu. And yet even after all that training, they didn't teach you to unlock the Kyuubi's chakra. Well, according to Dad, I needed to train my body before allowing the Kyuubi's chakra to flood my body. Menma sighed. He always said it takes a power being to wield power. You took that kind of advice from your father instead of asking advice from the actual Jinchuriki in your family. Naruto face palmed. I guess so. Menma chuckled nervously. You're an idiot. It takes more than just training your body. First, you need to train your mind as well as your body. A tailed beast are known to be very manipulative and cunning. If you lack a strong mind, then you lack the mental strength to combat their influence. Second, you need to have perfect chakra control. Kurama's chakra is potent and highly acidic. If your chakra control severely lacks, then the chakra can cause some major bodily harm, or worse, you can lose yourself to it and go berserk. Naruto explained. Right, and look what happened, I nearly killed you. I'm a monster, Menma cried, trying to wipe his eyes. Sensing his brother's distress, he patted the bed, motioning his brother to sit. Taking the invite, Menma sat down close to him. Naruto placed a hand on his shoulder with a firm but gentle grip. Menma, look at me, Naruto said softly. Menma looked up with his sadden-filled eyes to gaze into Naruto's light blue ones. You're not a monster. You just lost control when you gave into your anger. You weren't yourself. Naruto explained, trying to ease his pain. Exactly, I wasn't myself. Menma shouted. What if I end up hurting the ones I care about again? I could hurt Mom, Dad, or anyone in the village. No Jinchuriki is perfect. But if you truly want to ensure that you don't lose control again, then go home, and demand training from your parents. The only ones to blame are your parents, who should have trained you from the start. But I don't want to hurt anyone again. He sniffled. I'm afraid to use this power again. Naruto wiped his brother's tears with his thumbs and held his face in his hands. Menma sniffled again, his tears running anime style as he wrapped his arms around his brother. Naruto ran his hand through Menma's hair, letting him let out all of his pain and sadness. A word of advice, brother, to combat a powerful source of chakra like Kurama's. We must fill ourselves with love. Love is the only thing powerful enough to combat the chakra's malicious nature. Naruto said gently, still running his hands through Menma's hair. Menma slowly looked up at his brother. He was confused at Naruto's attitude towards him. Even after how he acted towards him when they first met in the Hokage's office. Naruto, why are you so forgiving towards me? I thought you hated me like you do my parents. Naruto understood Menma's question. True, he hated Minato and Kushina for abandoning him for a prophecy. But he couldn't bring himself to hate his brother. He believed that Menma was also a victim in this. I mean, sure, he was one of the reasons they left, but not the main reason. I mean, how could an infant be the cause of his abandonment? He may have held hatred for Menma once before. But after today he knew Menma truly was remorseful for his actions, which separated him from his power-greedy parents. I will admit that I felt hatred for you once. You became their main priority and I became the extra baggage. But I soon came to realize that it wasn't fair to blame you for something that you had no knowledge of. Your parents abandoned me thinking that I would be safe here without taking consideration of the mental state of the people who lost loved ones in the Kyuubi attack. You don't hate me, Menma whispered, clutching him tighter. No, I don't, Naruto answered as he clutched his brother close to him. After a brief moment he released Menma from the hug. Menma sat up as he pulled off the blankets and stood up. He stretched his muscles a bit as he felt fine as a fiddle. Then the nurse came in to check up on him and was shocked to him fully recovered and out of bed. Young Lord Senju, you're not supposed to be out of bed. You couldn't have recovered that fast. The nurse asked, shocked. As you can see, I am perfectly fine. You forget my Uzumaki regeneration and my healing factor of being a former Jinchuriki sped up my recovery. Naruto gave a goofy grin. Have my parents visited me at all in the hospital? The nurse quickly checked the visitor's log and nodded. Yes, Naruto-sama. Your parents visited you twice today. Lady Mito was so worried about you. I had never seen her so worried in my life. After she visited you a few hours ago, she looked like she was going to kill someone. Menma gulped as he had a feeling that someone was him. Since it was him that attacked Naruto. Naruto was sweat dropping as he knew his mom was pretty overprotective. He remembered a time when a man tried to sell him a cheap knockoff toy. His mother beat the man so bad for trying to scam him. His mother was a real mother wolf. Thank you, nurse, but seeing as I am okay. Am I free to leave? Seeing as there was no injury she could see and the boy looked perfectly healed. She couldn't help but sign the release papers for Naruto to leave early. Thanking her, Naruto asked Menma if he wanted to head out for some lunch to get to know each other better as brothers. Menma wanted nothing more than that, nodding his head excitedly. Konoha Downtown District. Tsunade Pav. I was enjoying my day so far. I was hanging out at my favorite local bar, the Golden Dragon, with my old teammate Jiraiya and my son Minato. The bar was filled with people. Guys playing billiards, girls dancing on stage, much to my perverted teammate's face. I could see the perverted look in his eyes. That idiot couldn't even go on day without staring at a beautiful woman. Well, at least it wasn't me this time. The bartender pouring us a drink was an old friend of mine. Hachi Kazama, son of the owner and big boss himself, Daichi Kazama. Hey Tsunade, it's been a while since you've come to drink at my bar, Hachi cackled, pouring me a drink. What can I say? I had family business to take care of, I laughed, chugging down my drink in an instant. Damn, that's good sake. Hit me again. You sure know how to hold your drink. So what brings you back to the village so early? I thought you guys weren't going to be back for 13 years. Hachi asked. Well, I won't go into details, but a certain situation came up. I told him, not wanting to reveal more. Hey, whatever, it's your business, Tsunade. The bartender left to tend to other customers as I reached out and grabbed a whole bottle of sake. I needed a large drink to make me forget about a certain redhead. Damn, that brat gave me such a migraine after our encounter. That brat had the nerve to insult me, make fun of my medical skills, and even had the gall to bring up my age. I chugged down the bottle like a mad woman. After a large gulp, I slammed the bottle down. Jiraiya and Minato take notice of me overdoing it. Hey Tsunade, I'm easy there. You don't want to end up drunk again, said Jiraiya. I scoffed as he tried to take away my bottle as I swatted his hand away. My son gave me a look which was the same look he gave me when I was drunk off my and started a bar fight a few days before we left for the fire capital. I nearly got in trouble with the owner and had to pay for the damages. Mother, please control your drinking. We don't want a repeat of last time when you started a bar fight. Ooh, come off it, Minato. You know very well those men started the fight when they thought I was an easy score for. I growled softly, taking another gulp of sake. Besides, I learned my lesson. Now let me enjoy my drink. Normal Pav. It was now getting late in the afternoon and yep, you guessed it. Tsunade was once again drunk off her. Her breath smelled like sake and she could barely even walk. The bartender had to cut her off because she had her 23rd GL of sake. Of course, this enraged her as she believed she didn't have enough. But the bartender stood firm in his decision to cut her off. Seeing there was no way to convince him, she tried another approach. Leaning over the counter, she revealed her cleavage, making her large D-cup S pop out. Jiraiya screamed as he flew back with a nosebleed. Minato could only groan, knowing this wasn't going to end well. Shaking her S in the man's face. She hoped her seductive nature would get him to change his mind. However, unknown to her, the man was a happily married man and he didn't take kindly to people who would seduce him for free benefits, free drinks, or free anything. He immediately pressed a button to call the security Anbu that his father hired in case of emergencies. I'm sorry, Lady Tsunade, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave now. You've had enough drinks for today. He stuttered. Tsunade groaned as she slammed her fist into the counter, leaving a spider web crack in it. She climbed over the corner and grabbed the man by his shirt and gripped her fist tightly, about to punch him. Listen here, pal, she slurred. I tried to be nice. I even offered you a chance to peek at my beautiful body. She ripped off her shirt, revealing her full chest, making so many men have the same reaction as Jiraiya. Luckily, the Anbu weren't affected by it and moved to restrain Tsunade. You still deny me a drink? Looks like I need to teach you some manners. She raised her fist to punch him. Hey, what's going on? She yelled as she felt her hands being tied behind her back. Do you know who you're messing with? Hands off me, I'm Lady Tsunade of the Senju clan. Lady Tsunade, you are under arrest for Alden prostitution. Anbu Bear stated firmly. You are to be held in the local jail center until you are released on bail, said Anbu Hawk. Tsunade was then hauled out of the bar, kicking and screaming. Minato slammed his head on the counter in emberment. His sensei Jiraiya was too drunken lady happy to even care. Now he had to go and file for his mother's release. He just couldn't catch a break. For once he just wanted to have a normal day with his family without any trouble. Was that so much to ask? Meanwhile, Naruto was leaving the hospital with Menma. The villagers greeted Naruto with warm greetings and smiles. Menma got some smiles, but most were still unsure about him given his parents' reputation. Menma tried his best to ignore some of the glares he was getting. Naruto called out to him, telling him to hurry up so they could make it to Ichiraku's. Not waiting for an answer, Menma immediately dashed towards him. Come on, Ichiraku is on me. Naruto offered. Thanks, little brother, but I think I should be treating you. You know, for almost killing you during CL. Hey, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. You're not going to let me treat you, are you? Menma's sweat dropped. Nope. Naruto grinned. Now come on. The two boys rushed down the street hoping to get to the ramen stand before they closed. Tonight was the Leaf Music Festival, so many business were going to close for the occasion. Taking a sharp turn around a corner through an alley, they noticed the ramen stand was a few feet away. Naruto could smell the ramen's sweet aroma. Its delicious flavor, its scrumptious delicious noodles, the tender meat. Ooh, it was driving him crazy. He walked only a few steps as he heard a loud crash from 2 buildings down on his left. What he saw was something he never thought possible. Their being restrained by the police force was none other than Tsunade herself. This was too good for Naruto to pee up. Looks like he would be getting a show before lunch. He soon also noticed Madara being led by 2 police officers. He could see Madara glaring down at the slug princess. Wanting to know more, Naruto told Menma to wait at the stand as he rushed over to meet his uncle. Well, Suand, looks like the law finally caught up with you. Madara sneered. Fat chance Uchiha, you can't hold me for long. Besides, I was just having a drink and making conversation. Tsunade scoffed. You mean with your fists and showing off your S? You tried to seduce a married man into buying you more sake. Madara groaned. Wow, what do you know? Naruto chuckled. Madara turned his head to see his godson standing there. He didn't even see him coming. Naruto, what are you doing here? I thought you were in the hospital. I was released, uncle. You know my healing factor rivals that of a tailed beast. Naruto boasted. Also, I was heading to Ichiraku Ramen when I noticed Lady Suan being hauled into the precinct. What happened? Lady Tsunade was causing a ruckus at the Golden Dragon and using naughty means to get him to buy her more sake. He refused and she lost it. Anbu Hawk answered. Naruto looked at Tsunade and could see from her expression and drunken state that the Anbu was telling the truth. He could see the slug princess was trying to plead her case that she wasn't guilty of any crime. She said she was just having a good time at her favorite bar. Arrested for prostitution, I can't believe it, Naruto snapped at Tsunade. Hey you tomato-haired runt, I'm innocent of what they have accused me of, Suand retorted. I know that. I can't believe these idiots would think any man would pay money to sleep with you. Naruto replied, making the slug princess gasp and Madara cover his laughter. Or in your case, Tsunade, it would be necrophilia with your old shriveled body and fake S implants. Tsunade's mouth opened wide with shock and Madara fell back clutching his sides with laughter. The Anbu could tell that Naruto has been hanging around Madara too much. The slug princess roared as she struggled against the Anbu's grips as she could give the brat a full beat down. That's it, I'm going to pound that brat's face in. Suand growled, struggling against the Anbu's grip. He's going to be black and blue and less of a man when I'm through with him. Really, Naruto? A voice called out. Naruto turned around to see Kakashi reading his orange book. You can't go one day without insulting Tsunade. Whatever happened to treating your superiors with respect? Ooh, don't worry, Kakashi ni. Tsunade still has my respect as a medical master and elixir crafter. I just like to get a rouse out of her every once in a while. He chuckled as he noticed the clock on the precinct building. Ooh crap, I got to meet Menma at Ichiraku. Catch you later, Kakashi. Bye, Uncle Madara. Ooh, and make sure to behave yourself, Lady Tsunade, and a word of advice. Date someone your age. I heard the great Toad Sage is the perfect age for you. Try him. Bye. Tsunade was soon dragged into the police station with 6 officers to keep her from chasing down the Senju heir and beating him to a pulp. She swore revenge on the brat as she was dragged inside. Kakashi, watching the whole thing, groaned. He hoped Naruto would grow out of his roasting phase and become more mature like his parents. But hey, you're only young once, so you better enjoy it while you can. But another thing confused him. Since when was Naruto on friendly terms with Menma? Back at Ichiraku Ramen, Menma was looking over the menu wondering what he should get while waiting for Naruto. Ayame placed a GL of water in front of him. She greeted him with a warm smile. Hello Menma, what can I get for you? Ayame smiled brightly. I'll have 1 small miso ramen please, if that's okay. He asked. Certainly. Coming right up, she giggled. Dad, we got an order for a small miso ramen. Coming right up, Tuki yelled as he began cooking. Make that 2, old man, Naruto said, taking his seat. Ooh Naruto, welcome back. Ayame smiled, giving her precious little brother a hug. Thanks Ayame Ne-chan, Naruto chuckled warmly. You're back, Naruto, what happened? Menma asked, taking a sip of his water. Oh, your grandmother got arrested for Alden prostitution. Say what now? Menma sputtered, spitting out his drink. Exactly as I said. Ooh great. As if our lives in the village wasn't bad enough, Menma slammed his head onto the counter. Hey, don't beat yourself up. You're not responsible for her actions. I know, but my grandmother's drinking habits are worse than her gambling habits. Like a few years ago, she gambled 120,000 ryo on a game of poker. A game she sucks at. She even tripled the amount on the third game. She loses, and what does she do? She flees, and my parents had to pay off her debt. We were lucky she stopped gambling, or the entire Namikaze clan accounts would have bled dry. Menma sighed in irritation. Geez, I can see now why she's called the legendary sucker, said Naruto as he was served his drink. Uncle Madara told me she was called that for a different reason. But he never told me, said I was too young to understand. Before Menma could even answer that, Ayame served them their ramen. The smell was so toxicating, the aroma was enough to drag you in. Taking their chopsticks, they thanked Yuki and his daughter before digging in. Sunlight shined through the window on the upper level of the compound. Its warm rays shined lightly upon the faces of Naruto and Menma. Menma spent the night at the Senju compound and was welcomed with open arms from Hashirama and his family. Naruto was sleeping soundly on his side with Menma huddling close to his little brother. Mito came in and smiled at the sleeping boys. Walking over, she gently shook them awake. Naruto, Menma, wake up, you're going to be late for breakfast. Mito said softly. The boys mumbled a bit as they weren't ready to get up yet. Mito sighed and decided to use her usual method when Hashirama wouldn't wake up. Gathering her chakra and pushing it to her hands, she formed electric currents in her hands. Chuckling with a happy smile, she leaned forward to their sweet little faces. Get your lazy butts out of bed. Naruto and Menma immediately sprang up, clutching each other. Barely awake, they turned to look at Mito. Menma let out a yawn and spoke to the Senju matriarch. Wow, I didn't know Naruto's old clock had a banshee alarm. Mito gasped in shock. Her face twitched and large tick marks appeared on her forehead. Who's an old banshee? Ah, Mito-sama, Menma screamed, coming to his senses. Back downstairs, Madara was cooking breakfast for the whole family. He had a knack for cooking and it was one of his hobbies. He wore a black tank top which showed off his ripped muscles and six-pack. He also wore a pair of black Hakama Anbu pants with a skull belt buckle on it. He also wore a white apron that said the following: disrespect my cooking, I'll burn you alive. Tobirama walked in, rubbing the back of his head and yawning at the same time. Morning sunshine, Tobirama said jokingly to Madara as he sat down at the table. Morning, Toby. Sleep well? Madara asked back, flipping the pancakes. Better than my 100-year dirt nap. Tobirama answered, reading the newspaper. Where's Hashirama? He's preparing for the peace treaty with Kumogakure. Hiruzen and Kurama are with him to oversee the treaty. Madara set the table and began placing the pancakes on the plates. The sweet aroma was so heavenly it even made Tobirama's mouth water. The second Hokage didn't want to admit it, but he liked his cooking better than Midas. Speaking of Mito, she should have woken up the boys by now. Soon they heard loud crashing from upstairs and screaming from Mito. The boys came rushing downstairs, fully dressed as they say at the table. Naruto was perfectly fine, but Menma looked like he was a street fight. What happened? Tobirama asked, concerned about Menma for a bit. I tickled a sleeping dragon. Menma groaned in pain. He called Mom an old banshee. Naruto ratted him out. Hey, I was still tired and I couldn't see straight, okay? Menma retorted angrily. Menma's eye was swollen along with his left cheek and he had a black eye. Madara immediately took notice of this and knew who the sleeping dragon was. Speaking of the dragon, they noticed her coming down the stairs humming to herself. Mito was smiling warmly and brightly, except it was a smile the family was familiar with. What a fine fresh morning. The matriarch chuckled, taking her seat at the head of the table. It's a special day for Konoha. Special day, I wouldn't trust Kumogakure as far as I could throw them. You know their main goal is obtain as many bloodlines as they can to fuel the ranks of their shinobi. Madara spoke his piece with malice against the cloud. I believe this treaty is no more than a trap. Once we have our guard down, they will steal someone from one of the clans from under our noses. Surely Hashirama placed that ambassador under watchful eyes. From what I heard, they tried this the last time and almost kidnapped Hinata Hyuga. Yes, he did. He appointed Minato for that. Tobirama sighed, turning the page. Hedgehog head, scratch that. You would be insulted to actual hedgehogs. Why him of all people? Minato no longer has the Hiroshin, so he won't able to teleport to the guy's location in an instant. Madara pinched his nose before sitting down to eat. If anyone, he should have chosen you, Tobirama. You originally created the Hiroshin. Ooh, don't worry, I'm the backup. Say wa. Madara was confused now. Hashirama knew Minato lost his ability to use the Hiroshin. So I'm the backup in case Minato screws up. Which I know he will. Lord Second smirked. So children, how are things at the academy? Mito asked the boys. Naruto and Menma looked at each other before Naruto answered his mother. He revealed to her that the academy qualifications weren't as they once were. Basically, the old civilian council reduced the effort it took for shinobi to be prepared for the real world. The curriculum was falling behind with basic math and writing, which you can actually learn at home. The most they learned during the first year or so was shinobi history and other basic clues. Mito couldn't help but agree that the curriculum wasn't living up to its glory days, and she had noticed that civilian-born shinobi were ping a lot easier than clan-born shinobi. Tobirama, overhearing the conversation, added his own piece of advice. He told the boys that learning about the past helps to improve the future. It was easier to learn from the past if they wished to improve and bring fresh ideals and other things to the future. Many people pride on their past while others suffer from it. The only difference is whether the person wishes to learn from it or run from it. He understands that some clues may be boring than the others, but they could also benefit from it. Hearing this, the boys seemed to agree with Lord Second, and soon the family dug into Madara's sweet, delicious pancakes. After the heartwarming breakfast, the two boys bid them farewell and headed out to the park. Madara placed the dishes into the sink and began to wash them when he felt a pair of strong arms wrapped around his waist. Toby, Madara panted. Now that the brats are gone, how about we move on to the second course? How's breakfast in bed sound? Tobirama purred, nibbling Madara's earlobe with a gentle nibble. Madara shivered at the touch and dropped the dish he was holding back into the sink. Why did Tobirama have to be so handsome and alluring? They dated in secret after the creation of Konoha and eventually fell in love and was going to be married. Until Madara became consumed by power and waged war against Hashirama. But now that he was back, they would now be free to continue their relations. Toby-chan. Madara struggled to find the right words, yet he couldn't get them to come out. I still need to punish you for leaving me for your greed for power. Tobirama grinned a devilish smile. Tobirama hoisted Madara over his shoulder, much to the shock of the Uchiha. Madara struggled a bit, demanding he put him down. But Lord Second, being the stubborn and dominant guy he was, just carried him upstairs to the bedroom for some delicious breakfast in bed. I hate you. Madara mumbled with a deep blush. I love you too. Tobirama laughed. Utsutsuki clan compound. Kaguya was washing dishes, humming to herself after having a delicious breakfast. She had to thank Mito for the recipes. After putting the away, she turned around to see her son, Neji, on the back porch. She was the same height as Naruto and wore a traditional white robe with the clan symbol on the back. Neji underwent a genetic change. He still resembled his father a bit, but he had Kaguya's white hair and two horns on his head. He was petting his little dog that he named Hachiko. The little doggy yipped happily as he settled in Neji's lap. Neji was gazing up at the sky. For some reason he loved looking at the sky. Kaguya walked outside as she noticed her son was sky watching. It reminded her of how she always gazed at the sky every night when she came to Earth for the first time. Taking a seat next to him, she placed her hand on his hand, making him look at her with a small gasp. Neji turned to look at his mother's warm smile. He looked at her as he saw her face change to his birth mother Hamiko's face for a slight second. Crying small tears, he leaned close into her arms. "Mommy," Neji said softly with a smile. Kaguya brushed her hand through his hair gently. She understood that Neji lived without a mother for the first years of his life. But she promised to go out of her way to be the mother he needed. Ever since the side branch broke free from the Hyuga clan and became Utsutsuki, life had become better for them. She had their genetics altered so they could look like members of her clan. Of course, she was met with many members of the Hyuga clan and each meeting never went well for them. Kaguya always managed to be one step ahead and some Hyuga even ended up killed. "Neji," said Kaguya. "Huh?" Neji said, looking up at her. "What is it? What do you want most in life? What do you fight for?" Neji was confused from this question. But at the same time he remembered that his mother hadn't known love from her past. She never understood what humanity strived for. It never interested her in the slightest, so why was she asking him this? "Well, I fight for my village and everyone in it. We live as protectors of the leaf. Some may say shinobi are slaves that serve their cages. But to me it's different. I fight for a brighter future to bring peace. But peace is never everlasting. It's temporary, with the dark fact that there will always be war. Peace is only an illusion," Neji explained in his usual tone. "I used to believe that fate was sealed in the very thread of life itself. But never would I have thought that fate could be altered. I was once a slave to the main branch of the Hyuga, but now." Neji cried tears of happiness for the first time in such a long time. "I'm finally free of my cage, free to fly wherever my life takes me." Kaguya could only smile at how far her little boy had come. Neji had certainly matured in the short time he had been with her. One of the Utsutsuki members approached them. It was a middle-aged woman who was once Neji's nanny after his mother died in childbirth. "Lady Kaguya, forgive me for intruding. But Lord Hiyashi is here to see you." Kaguya's eyes narrowed with a sharpening glare from the mere mention of that man's name. After what happened that day when she liberated the side branch and used the caged bird seal on him, she thought the man who would the brains to realize she was not someone to be challenged. She calmly stood up and told Neji that the meeting won't last long. She told him to go see his friends for a while, but Neji shook his head, for he wanted to help his mother. He explained that if he is to become head of the Utsutsuki clan one day, then he will need to learn all he can. She was going to refuse till she noticed the determined look in his eye. She sighed but nodded her head. "Very well, Neji, you may come. But remember these few rules: you don't speak unless spoken to. Second, regardless of your past with this man, you must show him respect unless he insults the clan in any shape or form. Third, you must contain your negative emotions during the meeting and only release them at the right time. One screw-up could ruin everything." Kaguya explained harshly, making Neji nod. Kaguya then turned to the old woman and told her to let Hiyashi in. The woman nodded as she headed to the front door to allow the man in. Hiyashi walked into the compound as he and Kaguya stared down at one another. He took notice of Neji and how different he looked. He could see his former nephew resembled the woman who broke apart his clan. "Lady Kaguya," Hiyashi said, trying to hold back his distaste for her. "Lord Hiyashi," Kaguya replied back with equal distaste. "What brings you here to my compound on such a fine morning?" "I have come here for the return of the clan members you stole from me," Hiyashi demanded. "The Hyuga elders have pushed him to retrieve the side branch, since the side branch made up most of the clan itself. Losing them had greatly reduced the clan in numbers. It left them at a very vulnerable state. They weren't weak or defenseless, but it put their bloodline in severe peril. Hiyashi was ordered to ensure the side branch was returned, for their bloodline was vital." "Know who you are speaking to, Hiyashi," Kaguya threatened as she unleashed her chakra infused with Miv killer intent. Neji felt the air thicken from the amount of power his mother was releasing. He could barely even move, It was like being frozen solid. It was like being in a nightmare you couldn't wake up from. This key, it's so powerful. I can't move my body. Is this power I'm feeling mother's true power? Her chakra, it feels so dark, so benevolent, so divine. Neji shuddered as he gazed upon his mother. What is this strange chakra? Hiyashi gasped, shielding his face with his arms. Who are you? I'm the embodiment of power itself. I'm the very core of which all chakra originates. I am known throughout history by many names. Some call me a goddess, a healer, a demon, a killer. But I am infamously known as the rabbit goddess, the mother of all chakra. Kaguya shouted. Hiyashi's eyes widened. This woman, this very creature that attacked him and severed the clan, was the embodiment of chakra itself. The infamous rabbit goddess herself. No, that couldn't be true. The rabbit goddess was just a fairy tale. Surely this woman must be an imposter and a Hyuga rebel. You honestly expect me to believe that? Hiyashi scoffed with a laugh. The rabbit goddess is a myth, a mere story told by generations of shinobi. What I see, a Hyuga woman with an over-egotistical ego who tried to defy the power of the main branch. Neji grit his teeth, seething with anger at his former uncle's disrespect to his mother. What he wouldn't give to rip that smirk off his smug face. But he had to remember his mother's rule. He couldn't show any negative emotions until the right time calls for it. You dare call the fourth greatest woman of divinity a liar? You dare mock her power and ability? You dare mock the woman who lived before chakra even existed, the woman who ended all wars before the rise of shinobi, the woman who has the rank of divinity that only the three divine sisters have. You dare mock her like she was some kind of peasant under your shoe. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't kill you where you stand. Neji stepped forward before Kaguya held her arm in front of him to stop him from approaching any further. Neji grunted in frustration but backed down as commanded. Whether you believe me or not, Hiyashi, is up to you. But what is true is that I am on a level far greater than anything you could possibly achieve. Kaguya smirked darkly. I'm a person of divinity and I won't hesitate to end your life if you continue to demand me of anything. Your clan's numbers have been greatly reduced, making you now the smallest clan in the village. You dare mock the Hyuga? Hiyashi screamed, charging at Kaguya with full speed. Kaguya stood her ground to fight until Hiyashi fell to the ground, clutching his forehead. The cage bird seal was still branded on his forehead. The elders who knew the seal and its design tried to remove it but couldn't. It was as if the seal itself was burned into his skin. Kaguya turned to see Neji standing there with his hand forming the symbol. Neji spoke out against Hiyashi once again. You told me to only lash out when the time came. Well, that time was now. It was bad enough he called you a liar. But it crossed the line when he mocked you as some low CL peasant, like some commoner. I have tolerated his insults, but that one crossed the line. Neji screamed, adding more chakra to the seal, making Hiyashi scream louder. Kaguya immediately grabbed Neji's hand, breaking the seal. He looked at her, asking her why she stopped him. She shook her head at him, basically telling him to let it go. Letting out a small growl of anger and frustration, he stopped the flow of chakra to the seal on Hiyashi, giving him relief. Hiyashi looked up at the two. Kaguya stepped forward. Let this be a lesson to you. I have shown you mercy by having my son spare your life. Kaguya warned him. But try to demand anything from me again and I won't stop him from killing you next time. You won't get away with this, you hear me? Hiyashi screamed. I'm the head of the Hyuga clan, Arg. Kaguya pressed her foot upon his neck, adding pressure to crush it. Hiyashi struggled to pry it off but was having trouble trying to budge it. Don't push me, I'm in a really foul mood, she said coldly before removing her foot. You've become the kind of man you despise. The once great Kai blocker Hiyashi of the Leaf, now a figurehead for the Hyuga elders. Once a proud clan head, now reduced to an elder's lapdog. Hiyashi picked himself up, trying to put on a brave face. but he was shaking so bad that urine traveled down his pant legs. Kaguya groaned. Her new carpet was ruined. She picked up Hiyashi by his collar and kicked him out the door, making him fall flat on his face. That's for ruining my brand new carpet, you filthy mutt. It cost me a pretty penny to buy that. The villagers who saw the whole thing felt sorry for Hiyashi for being at the end of her wrath. Either from demanding her of something or insulting her. Hiyashi grunted as he got up and dusted himself off. Seeing the villagers staring at him, he coughed before walking off as if nothing happened. Neji smiled watching him walk away in shame. Well, that was fun. I'm going to meet my friends, I'll be home by dinner. Neji rushed off to meet up with his friends. Kaguya smiled before heading back into the house to continue with sewing a sweater she was making for her son. She needed time to relax after her morning was ruined by Hiyashi. Neji was hurrying down the street as the park was close by. On his way there, he heard the villagers talking about the Kumo peace treaty. He couldn't understand how they could trust Kumo after what happened to his father. The Raikage denied any involvement with the kidnapping, and the village actually believed it and sacrificed his father. The only problem was that his father willingly gave his life not just for his brother but for the village. On his way there, he noticed Naruto and Menma outside of the park gates. They met with Sasuke, who also arrived along with Shikamaru and other kids. Naruto noticed him and called him over, which he happily responded and rushed over to greet them. Meanwhile, the villagers were gathered in the main district as the Kumo shinobi arrived with the new Kumo ambassador. The man was 6 feet 2, dark skin and well-built muscled body. He wore a dark green vest and dark blue pants with white tape wrapped around his left leg and both arms. He had long dark hair with a ponytail tied at the end. He also had a long scar over his left eye that ran from the top of his eye down past his nose. His name was Arashi Akumi, the Dark Tempest of the Hidden Cloud, and S-rank shinobi who specializes in nightly AI nation. He was accompanied by his sister, who was one of the group of shinobi that was in charge of protecting him. She was 5 feet 8 inches with a slim body and DD-size cup. She was dark-skinned but fairly beautiful with long black hair and beautiful blue eyes. Her name was Ketsu Akumi, the Bloody Tempest of the Hidden Cloud. She was an A-rank kunoichi and a deadly one at that. She was well infamous for killing 1,000 shinobi with a single typhoon caused by her deadly bloodline storm release. While everyone greeted them with warm smiles and cheers of praise, a figure watched from a distance in the shadows. He wasn't fond of having Kumo ninja here. Not one bit. He only returned today from his month-long mission tracking down a highly dangerous rogue ninja that was wanted by the Leaf for over 10 years but was never found until now. He let out an angry hiss before vanishing into the shadows. He was going to keep a close eye on them. Arashi and his sister were greeted by Minato and Kushina, the infamous Yellow Flash and Red Hot Halbareno. They exchanged greetings. Minato Namikaze, your legend precedes you. You're quite the legend in our village, the only one who could match the 4th Raikage in speed and managed to almost defeat him and Killer Bee in combat, said Ketsu. Ketsu Akumi of the Akumi clan, and the infamous Bloody Tempest, and A-rank kunoichi that single-handedly killed 1,000 Konoha shinobi in 3rd Great War using storm release. It's been a long time since we met on the battlefield. Minato replied before looking at her brother. And who can forget the infamous Dark Tempest, Arashi Akumi, Kumo's deadliest in. Seems we are quite known in the Leaf as well. Arashi boasted as he gazed down upon Kushina. Ah, Kushina Uzumaki, the red-hot Halbareno, and member of the infamous Uzumaki clan. It's been far too long since we last met. Indeed, your father tried to capture me along with his team when I was a little girl. Kushina snarled. Then he was killed after he tried kidnapping the Hyuga heiress. Now you dare come here to settle another peace treaty when you failed to secure one last time. That was when the 3rd Raikage was in power. The 4th Raikage, I wishes to form a non-conflict peace treaty with the Leaf. He is not interested in bloodlines as he's perfectly fine with the ninja we have. We don't need bloodline-fueled ninja to show off our strength. Ketsu rebuked her. Kumo have lusted after bloodlines in the past. That will never change. Kushina screamed. Pardon my wife, as she still is sore about her past experience with Kumo Shinobi. Well, next time keep your wife on a very short leash. Ketsu scolded. If our villages want this peace treaty to happen, then we must be civil to one another. Not be at each other's throats like pack animals. Minato nodded before leading them to the Hokage's tower. Once there they were shocked and astounded at the man who sat upon the chair. They had heard rumors of the return of the first Hokage, but didn't believe it was true, but here he was sitting before them. But the other thing that shocked them was that the Nine-Tails fox sat on his left side. They thought the Nine-Tails was sealed away after it rampaged through Konoha. So you must be the ambassadors that has come to sign a non-conflict peace treaty with my village. Hashirama asked them with warm greetings. Yes, Lord. First, we are shocked to see you here of all people. Rumors had spread far and wide of your return to the mortal world. It looks like the rumors were true. But yes, Lord, I wishes to secure an alliance with the Leaf. He had hoped this will mend the rift that his father, the late Sandaime, created after the failed Hyuga kidnapping. Yes, although Ai's father denied any involvement, we still had to give in to their demand for the killer's life as it violated the first treaty. We had to sacrifice Hisashi Hyuga, Neji's father. Luckily he had the cage beard seal which not only saved the village but preserved the Byakugan. As much as I hate and despise that kind of slavery, it did prevent a war, said Hiruzen. However, Kumo sent Yugito ni one of their Jinchuriki as peace offering and a piece of goodwill. Speaking of Yugito, how is she? She is the Raikage's niece and he wants to know her status and condition. Arashi asked, concerned for the girl. Yugito is fine, she is staying with one of our most trusted occupants. Hiruzen replied, wanting to keep her location with Danzo a secret due to Kumo's attitude towards the man. And who is that? Ketsu narrowed her eyes. The kitten is living with me at the Senju compound. Mrs. PMS is the holder of my elder sister Matabi. So who better to raise her than me? Hey, her name is Yugito ni Yubaka Fox. How dare you call her such a name? Ketsu ranted. Hey, I call her that because her tantrums are exactly like Matabi's when she's on her period. Kurama smirked. Being a smart. I feel sorry that Naruto has to marry her. But hey, his tastes are his business. I mean, look at Hashirama, he's the god of all shinobi yet he's WPED unleashed by his wife. Hashirama sulked in his chair from the Kyuubi's statement. Sure, he was the greatest shinobi in the world and feared by all. Yet he wasn't able to stand up to his loving and scary lotus flower, Mito. Hiruzen let out a loud exasperated sigh. Can we continue with the treaty? Hiruzen groaned. I want to get home and relax with my favorite book. Deciding to get this over with, Arashi and Ketsu were led to the council chamber. The large marble hall was filled with the clan heads, the civilian council led by Mebuki Haruno, and the representative of the fire daimyo who was a young woman around the age of 20. She was the fire daimyo's eldest daughter, Aiko Takahashi, and his pride and joy. The Kumo ambassador and his sister were seated at a white marble long table with the clan heads on the left side and the civilian council on the right. The Hokage sat at the head of the table with Hiruzen and the fire daimyo's daughter standing behind him and Kyuubi standing next to him. Now that we are all assembled, we can discuss the terms of the treaty. Hashirama said in his stoic yet commanding voice. The treaty that was given to Hashirama stated that the two villages won't engage in any hostility from one another. Business and trade routes will be open to one another's merchant guilds to greatly improve business relations. All Kumo asked for was knowledge on the almost extinct art of sealing. As there were very little Fuinjutsu users in the Land of Lightning. The contract also came with a marriage agreement that the son of the recent Hokage would marry the niece of the current Raikage. Basically, they were asking for the marriage between Naruto Senju and Yugito Ni. Having read the treaty, Hashirama asked for the counsel of his peers, if they agreed with the terms. Everyone nodded their head. Hashirama asked Kurama for his counsel since he knew humans better than anyone. Kurama, in all your great counsel, what say you? The terms of the treaty are minor and basic at best. However, regarding their term involving the sealing arts, if we handed over any high-ranking or powerful seals to them, then even without their or our own knowledge, someone from Lightning Country would use it to their advantage and violate the treaty to try and destroy us, given our past bad blood. After all, our sealing knowledge comes from the Uzumaki clan, who were the masters in the art. Therefore, my final counsel is, yes, we share our sealing knowledge, but any sealing formulas and knowledge known to the Uzumaki clan are to be kept secret. As for the marriage proposal, Yugito has already shown interest in Naruto and openly wishes to marry him. Kurama said, giving his wise counsel. However, to ensure the treaty stays effective for years to come, it needs an ace in the hole. Therefore, as a message to Kumo, any attack on the village is an attack against me. I may have been sealed 3 times already, but I had pledged to defend this village. Every shinobi knows that while I may be sealed, I'm still the most powerful force in existence. The Kumo ambassador and his sister nodded their heads, fearing the fox's retribution should anything happen against the village. Sure, they have the 8 tails, but Konoha has the god of shinobi, the Kyuubi, and other powerful forces. Satisfied with the agreement, the treaty was signed by both parties. The bad blood between Konohagakure and Kumogakure can finally be placed to rest. The ambassador was welcome to stay for the day and depart the next day. They took the offer with great sincerity. The rest of the day passed quickly and the village was in joyous celebration. Bars and restaurants were opened and a festival was held to honor the peace between the 2 villages. Naruto was enjoying the festival with his brother and friends, playing games at booths, eating delicious snacks and other things. It was the most joyous day of his life. He had never been happier. He and Menma sat by the edge of a large lake looking at the sunset. Menma took in its beautiful sight as he felt relief, something he hadn't felt in a while. He turned to look at Naruto, who had somehow fallen asleep. Placing an arm around him, he held him close. Watching from the trees, Minato and Kushina were pleased to see how close the boys had become. Now that the boys have become close, it will be easier for Naruto to help his brother achieve his destiny. Hearing the rustling, Menma turned to see his parents. Mom, Dad, what are you doing in the tree? Are you spying on us? Menma asked, disturbed. Of course not, we came to look for you, Minato said as they jumped down. We noticed how close you 2 have gotten and we are so happy. Something tells me you're more than just happy, Menma answered. We knew Naruto would understand. Now he will finally be able to help you achieve your goal in bringing peace to the shinobi world. Just like the wise old toad said. Menma stiffened hearing about the prophecy again. Menma began to slowly realize that his parents seemed to care more about the prophecy than their kids. He began to realize that he was only special and receiving extra love and attention because of it. If Naruto was the child of prophecy, would they have abandoned him like they did Naruto? Mom, Dad, if Naruto was the child of prophecy, would you have left me here in the village? Menma asked a little coldly. What are you talking about, son? You're the child of prophecy. Kushina laughed, thinking he was joking. What if I wasn't? Would you have left me behind? Menma asked again impatiently. Of course not, Minato said hurtfully. Then what made Naruto Otudo any different? His parents tried to speak their answer, but the words wouldn't seem to come out. It was if their guilt was trying to prevent them from saying something stupid or something they would make everything worse. We had to keep the soul container away from the chakra container. The Kyuubi would be able to remove its chakra from you and break out of the seal once more. We aren't proud of what he did, but it was the best solution at the time. His mother tried to explain. All this time I believed I was special, some kind of hero. He said before looking at Naruto. But now I see what that could have costed me if the roles were reversed. I'll fulfill the prophecy as foretold. But I'll do it on my own terms. As the Uzumaki Code states, family comes before all. Menma, the future of the shinobi is going to be at serious risk soon. A great evil will befall the world and the child of prophecy will decide the fate of the outcome. Plus with that masked man still out there who knows what he will do. Kushina explained. When has the shinobi world not been at risk? Our lives are at risk every day. You speak of this great evil but don't know what it truly is. I also know prophecies change all the time. Menma, what's gotten into you? Minato asked. I grew a brain. Menma retorted before standing up with Naruto on his back. I'm taking Naruto home, I'll be home afterwards. Minato and Kushina tried to stop him but Menma had already left. Deep in the shadows a man was watching before creeping back into the darkness. Night fell quickly as Menma carried his brother home. He jumped up a tree and through the open bedroom window. Once inside he placed Naruto on the bed and tucked him in. Afterwards he left and headed home. Unbeknownst to him a figure crept into the room and approached the sleeping redhead. Pulling out his large sack he stuffed Naruto in it and ran out into the night. A snake was nearby as it slithered its way into the surrounding woods. Approaching its master that was waited for it, it slithered up his arm and hissed into his ear. I knew it. The man gritted his teeth and dismissed his summon. The figure ran quickly through the woods and into the dark areas of the village to avoid being seen. He was eager to bring the Senju heir to Kumo. They would have access to the legendary Mokuden. He knew being chosen to go with the Ambassador would give him perfect access to snatch a child from one of the clans. Ketsu and Arashi had no idea of his motives, and when he brings the brat to the village he might even replace Ai's Raikage and finally have the power to demolish Konoha. This so-called peace treaty wasn't worth the effort. Why should they be making peace with the Leaf when they still had the manpower to wipe them out? You're going to be the key to Konoha's destruction, boy. With the Senju and Uzumaki bloodline we will breed an army that will bring the villages to bow at my feet. He laughed maniacally. Suddenly he heard movement in the trees. Taking out a kunai he prepared for any attack. He looked around for any sign of movement but found none. Feeling a bit paranoid he continued on. After moving a few more feet he heard it again. This time his nerves got the better of him. Who's there? Show yourself. He screamed. I know you're there. Come out and face me, coward. Coo coo ha 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 ha. The voice laughed. Now why in the world would I want to do that? When I can ravish in the joy of making you sweat. Come on out. I'm not scared of you. Show yourself. He demanded louder this time. The figure soon jumped down in front of him. The Cloud Ninja readied his weapon as he gazed upon the shape from the shadows. The moon's bright rays illuminated the woods revealing the figure who stood in his way. His skin was very pale and white like snake's skin, his eyes were golden with slitted pupils, and purple markings around them. His wide grin showed off his fang-like teeth. He also had pronounced cheekbones and straight waist-length black hair with some locks covering and framing his face. He wore the standard Junin uniform, flak jacket and all. He also carried a long sword with a golden snake handle strapped to his back. Oh Orochimaru of the Sannin. The man gasped, dropping the sack. Did you really think I wouldn't find out what you were up to? Orochimaru said coldly. I don't know what you're talking about, I didn't do anything wrong. He screamed while still sweating. You're lying. Even your body language and tone of voice gives it away. You tried to kidnap my godson and use him a breeding tool. Hoping this will raise you to the ranks of ultimate power within Kumo. It was bad enough Minato was planning it. But when another village wants the same thing, I don't show any mercy. Snakes are very protective of their hatchlings. Orochimaru smirked, drawing his sword till he saw his reflection within the blade. Because believe when I say you're not going to leave this village alive. You think I'm scared. You can't do anything to me as it will violate the treaty and Konoha isn't prepared to fight another war. The man boasted. I hold the cards now, Orochimaru. Konoha wouldn't risk going to war for a single brat. Ha 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 ooh, but I would. Orochimaru charged at such speed he appeared behind the man. The ninja turned his head as Orochimaru slashed his arm off. The man screamed as blood gushed out of his severed arm. The Sannin laughed as he licked the blood from the blade. Don't bother screaming, no one can hear you. I set up a soundproof before confronting you. But please scream as loud as you want, it only makes me want to kill you more. Orochimaru laughed, approaching the ninja. Kami, please no, please I beg of you. No, please no, no. Orochimaru grabbed his other arm and pulled out his kunai and laughed maniacally. And this little piggy went to market. He cutting off the first finger causing him to scream. Ah, this little piggy went home screaming. He yelled, cutting off the second finger. Ah no, someone help me. Ha ha ha, and this big piggy lost his head. He sliced his hand off. Please mercy. The man cried out. Please have mercy. Sorry, but I wasted that on Minato before he left the village years ago. The sounds of tearing flesh and screaming filled the barrier as the birds flew off into the sky. Orochimaru, now stained with blood, approached the sack and picked up Naruto. He felt the barrier fall as ninja rushed to the spot. Hashirama and the Kumo ambassadors arrived to see a cloud shinobi flayed and in pieces and Orochimaru standing by him covered in blood. What happened here? Hashirama yelled. You should ask the ambassadors. One of their shinobi snuck into the Senju compound and kidnapped Naruto. The man hoped that by kidnapping Naruto the village wouldn't risk another war over him. I only managed to come home today and one of my summons informed me of the man's intention to kidnap the boy. Orochimaru explained. Ketsu approached Orochimaru and instead of attacking him, she thanked him, which confused him. Why was she thanking him for killing one of their shinobi? Ketsu explained that she thought the village purged the remainder of Kumo's Black Lightning Division. An Anbu division created by the second Raikage whose mission was to kidnap and bring fresh bloodlines to boost the physical power of the village. After the third's death, I had the Anbu division disbanded and had the old members executed. They had no idea that members of the division was still active. Orochimaru was skeptical, but he had a run-in with those Anbu before. Plus he didn't sense deception in her words. Lord Hokage, Kumo had no idea they were still running in secret. The Raikage had no knowledge of this. Arashi explained, hoping to avoid another war. That's what the last Raikage said when he tried to kidnap Hinata. I told you Kumo couldn't be trusted. Kushina ranted loudly like a banshee. Geez, and I thought my voice was loud. Mebuki winced, covering her ears. They speak the truth, Hashirama, said Orochimaru. I sense no deception in their actions or their words. Hashirama nodded. Very well. Arashi, clean up your ninja's corpse. Orochimaru, take Naruto home. Ketsu, send word to Ai of what had transpired. Ketsu nodded and left to send word to Ai of the incident. Arashi took care of the body by burning but keeping the severed head. Orochimaru took the sleeping Naruto home. The snake Sannin was surprised that Naruto slept through all that. Arriving at the compound, Mito was told of the incident and boy was she mad. So mad she actually trashed the kitchen in the rage. After calming down, she sat down to have a gl of sake. Orochimaru quickly placed Naruto to bed and closed his door. Small lemon ahead. If you don't like, please skip it. On his way down he heard laughing coming from Tobirama's room and went to investigate. Opening the door, his eyes widened before he screamed. Madara and Tobirama, both in bed, turned to see Orochimaru gazing at them. Do you mind? Tobirama shouted as he was still on top of Madara. The man's arms still around his waist. Don't you know how to knock? Madara retorted. Don't you know how to lock your doors? And since when are you two so lovey-dovey? You hate each other. Orochimaru shouted as he covered his eyes and shut the door before running down the hall. Geez, what's his problem? Tobirama scoffed. Who cares now? Where were we? Madara smirked, kissing Tobirama. Why do the goddesses torment me with such irresponsible, blatant, and useless shinobi? Hashirama asked irritably, tearing into Minato and Kushina for their failure to protect his seedling. Hashirama, please, Minato said, trying to reason with him. Be silent, Hashirama commanded, making the man flinch. I gave you both a simple IGN meant to keep track of the Kumo Ambador, and your incompetence had nearly cost me the life of my only son. Has my teachings from the past taught you nothing? You mustn't be hard on yourself, Lord Hashirama. You were an excellent teacher. Hiruzen praised. It's not your fault they were incompetent, Danzo added. Hashirama-sama, please, there is no excuse for what we did. Kushina answered with a firm tone in her voice. We know we were responsible for Naruto. HMPH responsible. Hashirama scoffed. Do you know the meaning of that word, Kushina? Yes, I understand. Kushina urged him. Then do you understand the destiny that my sapling has set for him by the heavens above? That my son will lead the world into a paradise that not even I myself couldn't achieve. The Hokage gazed upon the picture of Naruto on his desk. His warm smile showing off the radiance of innocence which saddens him as that would soon fade once blood is spilt by his hand. One failure to save Naruto doesn't show weakness in our capabilities. Minato retorted, getting fed up. You should know that. But one weak link can break the roots of a mighty generation. Hashirama roared, turning to face Minato. Mito placed her hand on Hashirama's shoulder and gazed down at Minato's lowered head. Hashirama sighed before raising his hand to dismiss them. You have my leave to go, you're both demoted to Chunin for your failure. Hashirama groaned, giving his final word on the subject. Hokage-sama, Kushina tried to get a say in before Mito held up her hand to silence her. Kushina turned around and headed out the door, muttering to herself all kinds of complaints. Minato soon left after her, not wanting to cause any more trouble than they already have. Love. Mito consoled him. I should have sent those two imbeciles when I should have sent Orochimaru, Naruto's godfather, to do the job instead. Hashirama said, lost in his own shame for failing to put better protection for the boy. You're right, you should. Mito scolded him before softening. But that doesn't make you any lesser of a leader. Her husband turned around to meet her gaze. Demoting them to Chunin isn't enough. What would you have me do? He asked before Mito whispering something in his ear. Scene change. Walking down the hall, Minato noticed his wife leaning against the wall. She looked troubled. From the look of it, he guessed she was taken this harder than he was. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her into a hug. Kushina laid her head against his chest. Minato-kun, this can't go on. Kushina said softly. What are you talking about, Kushi-chan? Minato asked, confused at this. Naruto, we can't keep doing this, Minato. I think it's time we let him go. Minato's eyes widened at his wife's declaration. She was always spouting about getting Naruto back. To hold her baby again and have him call her mom. What changed? What could have forced her to come to this conclusion? Kushina. What are you saying? You've been always talking and planning on how to get Naruto back. Look at us, Minato, Kushina shouted. Look at what's happened to us since we left him here. Nothing but punishment. Lately I noticed I can't conjure up the chakra chains, then you lose the Hiroshin and most of your chakra, and now we've been demoted to Chunin. Kushina sobbed into his shirt, staining it with tears. No more Minato, we can't endanger our lives because of him. Kushina. Minato consoled her, rubbing her back. You're talking nonsense. Open your eyes, Minato, we lost mostly everything. If surrendering Naruto will make this go away, so be it. Kushina screamed till she panted, running out of breath. Please, love, for the sake of our family and Menma's sake, let Naruto go. He's happy with Hashirama and Mito, let's give him that at least. We have to think of Menma, and prepare him for his destiny. But he's my son, Minato shouted. He's my son too, but look what's happened. We can't change the past, and we must look to the future. Naruto is the past and our Menma is the future for mankind. I love him as much as you do, and it pains me to do this. But we have to make sacrifices, and if I must lose Naruto a second time, then that's what I shall do to ensure the safety and future of the human race. Kushina's voice broke in sadness with each word she spoke. Minato looked out one of the windows and gazed at the cloudy sky. Could he really do it? Surrender his ties to his former son? Minato loved his son even after leaving him in Konoha. But did he love him enough to let him go? Konoha Academy. Naruto entered the CL room, which were filled to the brim with students. Gazing around, he noticed that over 50% of the student body in the academy were civilian-born and around 42% were clan-born shinobi. He knew that the academic materials used during the reign of the fourth Hokage lacked a bit since the old civilian council handled the curriculum pretty badly. They also removed certain clees that made it easier for civilian shinobi to get into TJE shinobi ranks. Male seduction, which was a key element to kunoichi, was a critical part when it comes to assassination or intel retrieval, which was now replaced with a flower arrangement CL. Then there was kenjutsu training, which taught many the mastery and skill with a blade. Another CL gone due to lack of the art. Assassination training, that was once another key CL, was now restricted to Anbu and other special ops. Even medical training was lacking due to lack of funding. All the key clees meant to ready a shinobi for the real world removed by greedy human beings. Luckily his father managed to reinstate the clees. His mom, Mito, was in charge on male seduction, Yugao was in charge of kenjutsu, Tsunade was placed in charge of training medics, Orochimaru was in charge of teaching the arts of poisons, and Madara was in charge of assassination training. Finally Kurama was in charge of teaching torture and interrogation tactics. Naruto ni-san, Menma yelled, waving his hand in the air, over here. Naruto smiled and walked over to his brother and greeted him a playful headlock. Menma laughed as he struggled to get out of it. So what's my charming, and overconfident brother up to? Naruto asked. Hey, I am not overconfident. Who do you think I am? Uncle Jiraiya. Well, Naruto grinned. Don't answer that. Menma silenced him. What? I wasn't going to say anything, Naruto said innocently. Menma knew that look and tone of voice. He's seen that in his time at the academy in the fire capital. He then gave Naruto a bonk on the head with his fist. Ow Menma, what was that for? Naruto whined, rubbing his head. Oh come off it Naruto ni, your innocent act doesn't fool me. Menma accused. You were going to compare Jiraiya's overinflated ego with mine. It's written all over your face. Was not, Naruto argued. Was too, Menma argued back. Lightning collided between their eyes before they were interrupted by a small cough. They turned to see Yugito dressed in a black tank top and blue shorts. Her pale blonde hair tied into a beautiful bun. Well, looks like I just walked into It's the Baby Hour. I swear your behavior looks like something out of a comedy. Except I am not laughing. Yugito grinned. Though I'd expect my future husband to contain himself and not fall into such childish squabbles. It makes you look like a joke. And you're a loud mouth, why, and short-tempered fuse, that makes you the punchline kitten. Naruto smirked before he was tackled to the ground by Yugito. Don't call me kitten, Yugito hissed. Okay, I won't. Naruto smirked before flipping her over, pinning her down. Kitten. If they kiss I'm going to puke, Shikamaru said from the second row seats. What? Naruto asked before realizing how close his lips were to Yugito's. Wait, no, he sputtered before getting off Yugito. Getting to their seats, Iruka came in and took roll call. The early part of the academy was just basic academy stuff, like calligraphy, history of the shinobi, and certain math and other clees. Which was perfect for the first years of the academy. But Naruto, Menma, and Yugito wanted to participate in the better parts of the academy. When the afternoon came around, Yugito, being a bit older, attended her first male seduction CL, and she was very good at it. Naruto, along with Sasuke and surprisingly Ino, attended Kurama's CL. Torture and Interrogation CL Room A-3. Naruto took his seat next to Sasuke and Ino. Other children were there and were looking forward to the CL. The door opened to reveal Kurama. He stood in his male human form. A man at 5 feet 9 inches tall, long red hair, and a fit body build. He was both intimidating and handsome at the same time. He gazed upon the student body, and greeted them with a wide smile. Hello students, my name is Kurama Utsutsuki and welcome to Torture and Interrogation. Here you will learn the methods and techniques to extract information from both enemy and sometimes traitors within your own village. Kurama grinned widely. But beware, some of the methods will be too gruesome. But then again, some may be too extreme, like what I do. Everyone knows that when you interrogate someone, you love peeling off their skin, gouging out his eyes. Naruto spoke out. Besides, if anyone was interrogated by a tailed beast, they will sing like birds. What about mental torture? Ino asked him. Kurama looked up at the Yamanaka girl and smiled. Ooh, Yamanaka. They're infamous for their mind transfer bloodline. He chuckled lightly. Ino Yamanaka, heiress of the Yamanaka clan. Infamously known for their mind transfer bloodline. Physical torture may be good, but it doesn't last long. Any creature can die from large amounts of physical torture. But mental torture is, in my opinion, a superior branch. The way you can ensnare the mind, bewitch the senses, among other things. Ino smiled as she welcomed that compliment. Thank you, Kurama-sensei. Kurama produced a blood clone of a random person. He called upon each student to see what they could do to extract information from an enemy. Naruto called out to go first. Naruto headed to the blood clone and conjured up wood as it wrapped around the clone. With a smirk, he formed a snake hand sign as the wood sprouted spikes which began to pierce into his head. Chakra infused within the wood embedded itself in the bloodstream leading to the brain. The clone screamed in pain from his nerve system. Ah, ooh, gods please, it hurts, ooh, ah, ah, the clone cried out in pain. Naruto placed his hand upon the clone's head and began to absorb the chakra from within the brain that contained memory. He was able to see all the memory that Kurama gave the clone for the test. Of course, he also found something else which made him smirk. Kurama-sensei, I had no idea you had the hots for Sume Inuzuka. Naruto announced, shocking the CL. Kurama blushed deeply. How did the brat find out? Then he realized he must have added too much memory in the clone. That's none of your business, you little twit. Let me guess, Tobirama banging Uncle Madara, so no, you're moving on to Kiba's mother. Though I wouldn't blame you, Sume is of the wisest women in the village. Naruto teased him. Shut up, Gaki, or I give you detention, which is physical training with me, 100 laps around the village, 300 push-ups, and 600 sit-ups. Kurama showed his pearly whites, making good on his threat. Naruto held up his hands in defeat. Alright, I concede, don't get your panties in a twist. Arg. You really are insufferable, you know that. What can I say, it's part of my charm. Naruto boasted. After he finished, Sasuke took his turn and extracted his information from the clone by cutting off a finger one by one, then his toes one by one. Sasuke also began describing Tsunade as an old cat lady hag with saggy false teeth, and dirty breath smelling like fish. He then explained in detail of the clone having with that version of Tsunade. The clone screamed as it began envisioning it. Ooh, god, gross. The clone shouted. Ooh, I am going to puke. Okay, I'll tell you what you want. Just please no more, I'll tell you what you want. Sasuke was given full marks for his methods. Ino ped with flying colors, as did some civilian-born. Others didn't have the stomach for torture but did have the knack for non-violent methods and were actually good with negotiations. Kurama thanked and praised the students for their achievements and dismissed the CL. Hey Naruto, lunch? Ino asked shyly. Sure, come on. Naruto smiled as they left to have lunch outside. On the way they met up with Yugito and Menma. He heard that Menma had the potential to be an inn and was proud of him. According to Madara, Menma had perfect stealth that rivaled Kakashi, and he had the capability of ending the target swift and clean. Yugito, he had no doubt his kitten would pee that CL. No one could resist her charms. I heard you ped your CL, Yugito. Naruto praised her. I never had any doubt. Your mother was a good teacher. I can see how Hashirama fell for her good looks. Shame that her granddaughter inherited any of that. Hey, I resent that. They turned around seeing Tsunade standing there. I'll have you know that I was one of the best seductors of the village. Yet the only one to fall for your charms were Jiraiya and Hans. Naruto reminded her. Age hasn't been good to you. Your beauty may be fading, but your skills haven't. Besides, beauty is only skin deep. It's what inside, the soul, that is the real beauty. My beauty hasn't faded, you little turd. I am still at the height of my prime. I treat my body like it's a temple. Yeah, except it's worn out and condemned. Naruto laughed. What's your problem with me, Naruto? Didn't my grandparents ever tell you to treat a beautiful woman with respect? Tsunade shouted in his face. Show me a beautiful woman and I'll treat her like a goddess. Naruto snickered as he loved making her mad. Plus, you already know why I have a problem with you. That was the past, Naruto. There's nothing else we could have done. Tsunade groaned. What do you want from me? What I want, Naruto said, turning around glaring at her. You were my grandmother, for crying out loud. If Kushina and Minato had to leave me here, you could have remained and looked after me. You were a mother yourself, yet you went along with Kushina's idea to abandon me. So answer me this: how could you, who was once a mother herself, agree to the abandonment of one's own child? Naruto turns to leave with Yugito and company following behind, leaving Tsunade behind to rethink of the life choices she made after Naruto was born. Menma asked if his brother was okay, knowing how painful the subject was for him. Naruto assured him that he was fine. His stomach grumbled, showing that he was hungry. Scene change. Kushina was walking through the village streets as people were gazing at her and talking about her. She could hear all of the hurtful things that they were saying about her. Wench. Witch. Can you believe she tried to claim someone else's child? Demon whore. Village deserter. Criminal. Four hooded women dressed in black robes, wearing animal skull masks, lead her towards the end of the village, to what looked like a large gate. It was made of mahogany wood and gold. Both doors had the engraving of golden hinds, half woman half deer holding bows. They slowly opened to reveal a temple, magnificent architecture. Kushina was led halfway up the steps before she turned around, only for one of the women to turn her around and push her forward, making her fall forward on the steps. She was then pulled back up and a hood was pulled over her head to hide her face. When she was led inside, she was brought before the altar in the center of the temple. A large golden throne was behind the altar as Kaguya herself was sitting upon it. Her gaze burned deep into Kushina. Strip her, Kaguya commanded. Kushina was forced to the ground as the priestesses began to tear off her clothes. The woman sobbed quietly as her clothes were being ripped from her body. She began to feel dirty and helpless against them. She cried more as she was forced to stand up and her head was pulled back. Kushina, you are brought here for your punishment, for failure to protect Naruto. Hashirama already demoted to Chunin for our failure. Yes, Hashirama did, but I didn't give mine. Mito said, coming out from the shadows. I overheard your conversation with Minato outside of the office. You wanted to remove Naruto from your life. After all the time you were planning to take him from me. Heathen, one of the priestesses growled, slapping Kushina, earning a yelp from her. Enough, Mito commanded the priestess. Now Kushina, you once again blame Naruto for your problems. Please, I love my son but I can't get on with my life with everything the Shinogami did to us. Kushina tried to explain herself. So once again Naruto is to blame. What about Menma? Did you think about what this might do to him? They are brothers. Kaguya asked. Menma will still have his relations with his brother. But I can't do this anymore. I woke up and I realized this is unhealthy for me. Kushina groaned. Mito thought for a minute before smirking, knowing the perfect punishment for Kushina. She then commanded the priestesses to bring Kushina to her. At her command she was brought before Mito and kneeled down in front of her. Mito cupped Kushina's chin in her hand. Since you want to remove Naruto from your life, then I'll be more than happy to oblige. I shall use a seal created by the Yamanakas with a little bit of Uzumaki magic to enforce it. I will remove all traces of Naruto from your memory. Kushina gasped as she struggled. When she said remove Naruto from her life, she didn't mean like that. Wait, Mito, please, that's not what I meant, please. She cried desperately. Mito shook her head before gripping Kushina's head as she applied the seal to her. Kushina grunted as she felt the seal burning into her head and slowly making its way into her brain. The priestesses kept her still as the seal finally managed to do her work. The Namikaze matriarch soon collapsed as Kaguya told them to send her back to Minato along with a note about Kushina's punishment. The priestesses nodded as the head priestess took off her mask. You brought this upon yourself, Kushina, to think we were once like sisters. Makoto scoffed. Take her away. The other three priestesses nodded and by her command dragged Kushina's body through the village towards the Namikaze compound.